Hey guys, it's Victor, Give Me a Flake Man. I'm just a little warning here. This is a fold your socks, do your laundry, iron some things, tidy up the room, paint a barn type of, or you can make love while you watch this video. It's 55 minutes long, and you don't have to stare at the screen the whole time. I'm just going to be answering questions, and let's get on with it. Anyway, you have been warned. Thanks. Okay, hello there, morons. It's Victor, the king of the morons, and today I'm doing a answer. You know the expression, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, or something like that. Well, there is this moron, and I mean that as a compliment, a follower named Jeremy, who is soon to be a professor, but on his way to become a professor, to become a shaper of minds, he has to do a dissertation, and what that involves is interviewing people like me. You know how professors have to interview like serial killers and such. Well, he's not going that far, but he's going to interview me, a blogger who lives in Japan. I am an American, and the name of this interview or this study is Adjustment Process of English Language Teachers in Japan. Yes, we are a sick species. Anyway, I have a bunch of questions from him. The original list was much longer. This is he went through all my videos and picked out the answers he could use, and these are the 51 answers or questions rather, that he did not have an answer for. So anyway, if you're interested in teaching English in Japan, this might be something that you're interested in. So let's get to it. Number one, what is home for you? How would you describe your feeling towards home? Home is where the heart is, a great writer once wrote. I don't remember who that is. Billy Joel said, "You are my home." For me personally, I think this is actually key to adjusting to Japan. Being able to carry your home in your heart is useful. Like, I was originally born in Arequipa, Peru, which is a beautiful white city, volcanic mountain city of Peru. But I don't particularly, I was there like a few months when I was born. Moved to Alabama when I was a kid, then Boston, and Florida, then New York. And so I don't particularly find any city to be my home. So for me, home is this house right now. This is my home. This green room with a Superman mask in the back, or a statue in the back. That's my home. Okay. So I think, but if you are going to be someone who wants to live in another country, being able to carry your home in your heart, so to speak, as Billy Joel would say, is important. All right. I think I could live anywhere and be happy, but basically, my home is here. Number two, how culturally diverse would you describe your experiences at home? Well, let's assume that by that question he means back in the States, and I would say pretty culturally diverse. My parents being Peruvian, and growing up knowing many people of other countries, having good friends from India and Iran, and I guess all kinds of different friends. I guess I would say it's pretty diverse. The only thing I did not realize, or I was not really exposed to as a child or as a teenager, was I wasn't really exposed to drugs too much, and I wasn't exposed to homosexuality too much. As in, I didn't know any. It wasn't like open in my high school. Later it became quite oh yeah, he's gay, no big deal. So okay, but I mean that's part of culture, right? Pretty culturally diverse. I wouldn't say we were. I think most Americans don't have that much experience with the different cultures. Okay, enough of that. Number three, before arriving in Japan, how well prepared did you feel to teach English in Japan? How accurate was this assumption? I did not feel prepared to teach English in Japan at all. I had no training at all. I'm an English major, so I had that, but I had no training at all. However, turns out didn't matter. That was enough. Any person who's a little bit thoughtful and who puts in a little bit of effort and who has some, basic understanding of the way correct grammar, you'll be fine in Japan. So I don't think it's that hard to do, so to speak. But the truth is most people I don't think are cut out for it because it can be a boring job. But I'm getting, like, he has 51 questions. Let's just answer the question and go on. Number 4, in general, how relevant do you think teaching experience in your country, in your home country, is to teaching in Japan? Could you explain why? No, I think, you know, my image of teaching in America is like dealing with gangster kids. So it's completely different. In Japan, I never had any experiences like that or any kind of that kind of pressure of the kids being, you know, assholes, so to speak. So not really relevant at all. Number 5, intercultural communication training. Did you have any formal training about Japanese language or culture before arriving in Japan? I studied hiragana, katakana, and I understood the basic sentence pattern was different, you know. I could form a sentence, but I had almost zero vocabulary, like maybe 25 words, maybe, you know. Length of stay in Japan. Number 6, how long do you expect to continue teaching in Japan, and why? Excuse me. I'm now suddenly caught a cold. I'm nasally. I think I might die here teaching English. As depressing that might seem to some of you, but for me, you know, the job is the job. It doesn't matter what you do. Eventually, everyone's got to have a job of some sort. Hopefully, you have something you enjoy. I personally enjoy teaching, so I'm okay dying this way. So yeah, I would say forever. Number 7, under what conditions would you extend your time teaching English in Japan? As long as I keep breathing, and I suppose if my wife and I, if she died or something, or, you know, or it's a terrible thing to say, but I mean, but it's hypothetical, right? I mean, which I do not like. You know, I don't like wasting my time on hypotheticals. But I suppose if for some reason I got divorced or my wife died, I might leave. But you know, I got a house, I got a car, I got a dog, I got a job, I got a company. I have students that I feel responsibility towards. You know, even if I won the lottery tomorrow, I'd feel pretty shitty just quitting my job. You know, like I don't need to work anymore, so fuck you guys. I wouldn't be that way. But I'd probably limit my teaching. Anyway, under what conditions would you reduce your expected time in teaching English in Japan? Yeah, if I suddenly got rich, maybe I'd probably travel more. I often joke with my wife about living in Indonesia on a beach in Bali or something, or Hawaii, just because I wouldn't, you know, have to teach. But you know, but I mean that doesn't mean I don't like teaching. I mean, but in the end, you know, wouldn't you rather just do nothing? Number 9, and I'm sure I'm going to get some comments. Well, if you really like teaching, you'd want to do it forever, right? Well, whatever. By the way, I keep putting my hand up here because for some reason the eyesight camera on this Macintosh computer sometimes changes my face to orange. So if I put my hand up, it for some reason levels out the color. Okay, number 9. Have you ever considered another line of work other than English teaching to stay in Japan? Why or why not? I actually worked for a company for a while, and they offered me a position to go back to America, and it was working with fireproof material. And they said, like, basically it was like, go back to America, open up a branch office for us, and in 5 years you'll be a millionaire. And being young and stupid, I said, screw that, I'd rather stay in Japan. So yeah, so I did work for a company for a while, while I was teaching. Actually, it was a part-time job, but I was doing so well at that job that I was offered that. I have also worked as a rock and roll band manager, but did not enjoy it that much. I mean, it was fun, but it was mostly stress, you know, dealing with rock and roll personalities, you know, big personalities. And I also worked in a bar, which is a lot of fun and a great way to meet tons of women. But at the end of the day, you know, how proud can you be about getting a lot of people drunk and making a lot of money because you got a lot of people drunk? That was my way of thinking, and of course dealing with other personalities in the bar. So Yes, I have considered other lines of work, and I don't really define myself as a teacher, as in this is very important. So let me pause for a second. I am Victor, and I am an English teacher, but I could easily not be an English teacher, and I would still be Victor. Like, I don't need to be an English teacher to keep my identity, and this is a lot of this came thanks to YouTube. I started YouTubing when I lost a lot of things in my life. A lot of them being friends and business connections and things that I was doing stopped being part of my life all at once, and I had this empty. Well, I had a lot of time actually, and I just stumbled across YouTube and started blogging, and I started expressing myself, and I realized that just expressing yourself in a way is kind of I define myself as a being or identity separate to my previous employments or my jobs, my functions in society. So I don't need any kind of function to be myself. So I don't have to be a teacher. I would still be Victor. That's my point. Number 10, this is a new section, prior to departure. When did you come to the decision to go to Japan? How much time passed between your decision making and getting to Japan? What kind of support did you have for this decision? I think it must have taken like a year between my decision to come to Japan and actually getting to Japan. And this was after college. I graduated. I was working in the publishing business. I was working first for on the marketing side, publicity for mostly art books and small publishing companies. Then my boss fell in love with her boyfriend. Well, she got a boyfriend. She moved to California from New York, and she passed me on to one of her clients who worked with art books, and I did basically support for art books. And I realized, it was okay money, but I actually was making more money as a taxi driver. So I thought my father always pushed Japan and how amazing the people are here. As in, they lost World War II, but they went on and took over the world economically. So they're really that is a nationality. That is a group of people that you want to emulate, if anything. So he really admired them, and I guess that was kind of in my mind. And anyway, I decided to come to Japan and teach for a year. That was my initial goal. I guess I was about 21 or 20, 21 or 22, and I came over when I was a year later, 22 or 23. So it took about a year. Support, pretty good. My parents, they were a little, like, are you sure you want to do that? That's so far away, but they were okay. And now, I think they're resigned to the fact, I think my dad once in a while asks me, are you going to die there? Or are you going to spend the rest of your life there? Number 11, besides teaching English, what plans did you have for your experience in Japan learning Japanese? I grew up in a Spanish-speaking household, so of course I always spoke Spanish, but I was always curious as to whether I could learn a third language easily. Did I have the knack for it? So I was kind of curious to see if I could pick up Japanese, and of course I did. So that's one of my goals, was to pick up some Japanese. Number 12, can you describe your emotions on the day or month leading up to your departure to Japan? No, it was a long time ago. I was probably anxious to go, excited. Yeah, for many years before coming in and getting to Japan, my attitude was, man, I'm in Japan. So I think that had already existed before I even got here. I'm going to Japan. It seemed like such an exotic place at the time. Now, not so much, because I've been here forever. Upon arrival, number 13, 14, 15, can you describe your emotions on the first few days upon your arrival to Japan? Yeah, wow, it's cool. Luckily, I met a Japanese kid in Bolivia backpacking one day. I was alone, he was alone. We met and became friends, just exchanged phone numbers. And when he came to New York, he stayed with me. When I went to Japan, he met me and said, hey, come stay with my family, because I took care of him, so he took care of me. So I was pretty relaxed, I had this family taking care of me. And so there's no problem. Number 14, what were your first impressions of the country, of your accommodations, of your city, region, community, of your school, of your colleagues, of your students? Wow. My family was really friendly, and it was funny because we couldn't really communicate well. So a lot of it was broken English, almost no Japanese, mostly just broken English. I met a lot of people really quickly, and everyone looked the same to me because I could not. And I don't think this is racist, this is just lack of experience, but I was not used to the Asian face so in the beginning. So I met so many people so quickly that in my mind they all melded together, and I couldn't really tell if I'd ever met anyone. So you could, on the first few days of after coming to Japan, you could have walked up to me and said, "Hey, remember me?" And I wouldn't have remembered you, but I would have believed that I had met you. Now, of course, after years of being here, everyone looks like somebody to me. You know, like I'll ride the subway and I'll like that. That looks like Julia Roberts, or you know, that looks like Susan Sarandon, or whatever. You know, I just pick out people. And so that looks like Bill Burr, that guy. You know. Everyone looks like somebody now. I mean, they're not so foreign. They're not so alien to me. So that's one of the impressions. The other impressions when I first came here, it was hard getting around. I used the compass actually, because the streets weren't the streets aren't really labeled a lot of the time. That you can't tell what street you're on. So even if you know the address, it's hard to find it. But if you have a compass, you can at least figure out, okay, it's in that direction and kind of stuff. My impression of my school was my boss was a perv. The secretary was weird. My colleagues were overly Christian and stuck up. But my students were great. They're kids, mostly, the first school I worked for. Number 15, how do you feel about your impressions now? First impressions now? They were correct. Yeah, it seemed my boss was kind of a pervy guy. I mean, one of the first things he did after, you know, knowing him for a couple of weeks was show me his porn collection, you know. I mean, he was older than me, but, you know, I guess, you know, I should have been happy to see it, but I just thought, dude, I don't really need to see your porn collection. I remember this is years before the internet, so I guess maybe porn was worth more back in those days. I don't know. Let's go to 16, 17, 18, 19. During the first few months, number 16, how would you describe your first months in terms of emotional impact, for example, or conversely, was it stable or constantly changing? How so? Pretty much constantly changing. I was able to find a job rather quickly, but my homestay mother made it quite clear that she did not want me to stay in her house. She wanted me to move out as soon as possible. Which I actually congratulate her on actually being able to verbalize that successfully. She's like, look, our kids are all grown up. We weren't planning on another, you know, person living here. So you should take that apartment that your company's offering. So, oh, okay, I will then, because you know, it was a question whether I should take it or not. And I met a Gaijin girl the first time. I mean, the first week or so, and she was actually pretty aggressive, so that became a kind of I guess an emotional connection that changed quite quickly because it didn't work out. But you know, no big deal. Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. You may have noticed that I'm no longer wearing a white shirt because 24 hours have passed since the last question. The computer froze up. I don't know. And I was tired. So I said, that's it. Anyway, let's get on with it. So the last question, what contributed, number 17, what contributed to these emotional changes, if any? I don't think I suffered too much emotional change. Basically, I was, to be honest, I think I was just pretty busy. In the beginning, I think, like I said, I spent a lot of time alone when I first came here. I mean, I met that girl and it didn't work out and whatever. And I spent a lot of times with my dictionary studying, just looking up stuff. I very, very poor study schedule. I would just use my dictionary and look up words that I wanted to say. Like I would think I want to be able to say this, so I'd look it up. That's how I learned at first. I would copy kanji over and over in my notebook, and I spent a lot of times alone. I didn't understand that they were actually, like at first I didn't really speak Japanese, so I didn't feel comfortable going out anywhere really. The first couple months, you know, and I didn't really know about gaijin bars so much. So, remember this a long time ago, so I don't really remember the details too much. Except I remember that I spent a lot of time with my dictionary studying, which I'm thankful for, you know. And I met a girl on a train who was a teacher at another school. She was a Japanese girl who was actually an English teacher at another school. And we became friends because we take the same train home every night. She worked for a different school, but we would take the same train home. And we became friends, and she had a boyfriend. It wasn't that kind of relationship, but I ended up paying her to help me because her English was amazing. Just like, wow. Her English was amazing, but she wasn't her English was like she was like a savant idiot, you know what I mean? Like she was really good at English, but she wasn't really good with like logical I don't know, thought processes. You know, I don't want to say she was dumb, but she definitely led me to believe, because of her language skill, that she was a lot more I made the mistake of thinking that her high level of language meant she was a genius, but obviously just meant she was good at languages. Anyway, so then I started taking like Japanese classes once a week or something, and that was like a nice change. But anyway, you know, and I started meeting more people through work and things like that, and going out with people from work and things like that. But so my social life like that was, you know, I met a girl. I started a job at a part-time by a school, and then my first day was the last day of a girl who worked at a bookstore that I happen to know. So even though I only met her once, I'd go to the bookstore and kind of stalk her until she finally agreed to go out with me. And that worked out. We started dating regularly. That's a long time ago, though. That didn't work out eventually, but anyway, that's how number 18 is number 18. How would you describe your social life during the first few months? Besides teaching English, how did you spend your time? Basically, I spent it with her, having a lot of fun with her. Okay, for the first few months. Number 20. On an average workday, how much time did you spend teaching and preparing lessons? This includes thinking about teaching and preparing lessons. In the beginning, I worked for a small school, and they gave you like a textbook, and they said go through these pages, and it was a Sesame Street, you know, textbook. And I teach kids mostly in the daytime, and at nighttime some adults. And they gave you some textbooks to go through, and I would just, you know, I figured it out. You know, okay, I would look at it and try to make them talk, and it wasn't that hard because honestly, because I spoke no Japanese at all, they really had to work hard to get me to figure out what they were trying to say. So it was kind of good in a way. I remember that one of the first kid classes I taught, she was alone, a little girl. She was alone. And I finished it, and I'm like, well, we're done. I guess you can leave if you want. But I didn't realize, like for me, it was like, okay, we've done today's schedule. We were supposed to do these many pages, so you can go. But she was like, she couldn't figure out that she could leave if she wanted to. And I think later, I think she was thinking, I paid for a full, you know, whatever it was, an hour or 45 minutes. So leaving early was not really an option or even a reward. It was like, hey, give me my full time. Though I don't know. Anyway, I don't know if she was actually thinking of the monetary situation. Maybe she just thought, I have to stay in this room until the class is over. So when she wouldn't leave, I thought, okay, well, just teach some more, I guess. So, how much time did I spend per day? So I actually, because of the book that they gave me, I didn't really spend that much time in the beginning preparing. Maybe an hour, maybe half an hour per class. I would teach maybe 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours. No, it must have been more. It must have been more. And I had a long commute. They sent me to this faraway school in Tajimi, which from Nagoya, it's actually not that bad, and come to think of it, but at the time it was like 45 minutes on the train. I'd go out there in the early, I would go out there early in the morning, and then I'd have nothing to do like for 4 hours all day, or five hours until the night classes. So it was kind of a pain in the ass. I mean, I could go home again, but it'd be like another hour and a half just going home. and coming back again. So, but preparation wasn't that bad because the levels were fairly low in the beginning, the first year, and then after that year, the school actually didn't renew my contract because the boss was kind of a lech and he was looking for a female teacher to marry, which he eventually did find. And he kept hiring girls after me, but you know he made it seem like it was my lacking. I actually was a pretty conscientious teacher, you know, despite having no training at all. Right. I did my best. After that, though, I got a job at a much bigger school and much better position. Anyway, number 21. How often did you contact your friends and family back home? In what ways did this help you? Those are the days, of course, before internet, so a lot of letter writing, actually. Phone calls were rare, but more steady. Like now, it's not even that steady. But I think I would call like at least once every 2 weeks or so, and definitely write letters. And I think even I kept in touch with my ex-girlfriend. We were still friends, and you know that was it was pretty common back then. These days, I think if you were to come over now, people would Skype all the time, so it wouldn't be that big a deal. Keeping in touch is not that hard. In fact, I have many friends now that I Skype with many people that I've never even met. So I imagine that if you were to come over and you were homesick, that would be pretty easy to do. 22. Comparing your first months to now, how do you spend your free time? Why has not this changed? Free time? I don't have any free time. My free time is on YouTube. This is my free time. No, I go to izakayas with friends, you know. Or I exercise, which I did back then too. I ran. How has it changed? I don't study as much. I had more free time to study back in those days, and it was more necessary now. You know, when you get to a certain level, it's like you can actually pretty much cruise by without ever improving anymore because you've got enough. You know, you've got enough language to enable you to do what you want. So. 23. Let's see. Comparing your first months to now, how often do you contact your family and friends back home? Why has this changed, or has not this changed? My parents, my brother is here, actually here in the city, though he's pretty busy with his job and family, so I don't really see him that much. My sister's on Vine a lot, so I see her every day on Vine. So it feels like we're closer, even though we're not actually communicating. My other sister's pretty busy in Switzerland, so we don't really communicate very much. But when we do, we'll get on Skype or email back and forth a little bit. I'm not really answering the question though. I guess you know what it is? It's because I'm older and I feel like I know my family better, so I don't feel that that need to contact them so much. And everyone is busier now. You know, everyone's married and has kids or boyfriends and stuff. So, you know, we have an understanding that people are busy, and and when we're pretty busy also. I mean, not, you know, there's only so much. I think this is gonna sound strange, but we have like an emotional currency, right? And I'm pretty much spending my currency with, you know, my wife and a few people here in Japan. So I don't have that much time or currency left over for my blood relatives, but it doesn't mean I don't care, of course. And I'm always there for them, and they're always there for me. So anyway, I think I don't feel that need anymore. When I was younger, everyone was single, so 20 years ago, right? 24. How important is it for you to keep up to date with current events in your home, city, state, or country? Not important at all when it comes to home, city, state. But country, yes, I'm pretty up to date with what is happening in America. Why is it important? Because I care. I'm American. In my mind, I'm American. I feel American. And I also, you know, I also look at what's happening in Japan too. But yeah, I try to keep my nose in the mix. What's the expression? Keep my hand in the mix. You know, keep a foot in the water. Whatever. Anyway. 25. Your classes. This is about classes. How have your feelings about teaching English changed since you arrived in Japan? I'm a lot more confident. I can pretty much teach anybody blind. You can throw me in a room with nothing and I can teach them. I can make a lesson out of this rag, right? Or what is this called? Handkerchief, head towel, whatever, bandana. I can make a lesson out of pretty much anything with no pressure at all. I'm very confident as a teacher. Number 26, as a teacher, how would you define a successful day of classes? Lots of students paying money and learning. Ideally, just having great students is a successful day. But you have to also think of the time you're spending in the classroom and how many students you're teaching. And you could have a certain level of success, and then you could have an even higher level of success. So ideally, big classes and lots of students, and they're all good students, and we learn a lot, and we all have fun at the same time. That would be a successful day. 28. On 27, how often do you have successful kinds of days? Why? Well, because I have my own school and the students choose to come to the school. Pretty much every day is successful that I have classes. Yeah, every day I feel like I've accomplished something. Yeah. I also teach certain kids who are forced to come by their parents, and those are not as successful. Those are often a little bit, to be honest, they're yawners. They make you yawn quite a bit. Yeah, but successful day, yeah, almost any day that I'm teaching a willing student. There is the case. I have like one adult who, like, I don't know why she even bothers. It seems like she's bored, but she forces herself to come. And once a week, it's like difficult to get through the class. But only one like that. 28. What difficulties have so basically, if the student is enthusiastic, then I'm enthusiastic, and it's easy to be enthusiastic. But if the student obviously doesn't want to be there, then it's hard for me to summon on one-sided enthusiasm for the in the classroom. 28. What difficulties have you encountered in the classroom that may have prevented a day from being successful? I don't know. If the student is willing, there's never been a difficult day. In the past, there have been days when I've tried something really new that I wasn't good at yet, or was just not going to work. And yeah, I would say a lesson has failed before, but I would say rarely have I ever had a class where I thought, whoa, dude, I just wasted that student's time. I just wasted time. I rarely ever have days like that. So, 29, can you recall any struggle or difficulty you have had in the classroom that you were eventually able to overcome? If so, describe that to me. Oh yeah, hot girls. I often have. I'm a guy, and I'll be teaching a really attractive woman occasionally, and I'll I'll be honest with you guys. So I have a great a technique for everyone, and this works for anyone who wants to remain faithful. And do you know the old adage, don't shit where you eat? What you do is concentrate when you have a very attractive girl in your class. What you do is concentrate on one part of her that is very unattractive until it's the only thing you can see, and then your initial attraction is because all guys, like Bill Burr said, we're all basically genetically prepared to engage 85% of the women in the world. So that's I'm joking. I'm half joking here. That's the struggle. Yeah. Oh, okay. That's one kind of a joke struggle. Another real struggle, actually, let's be more serious, has been kids who don't pay attention. And yeah, like when I used to teach some junior high school kids, if I was too friendly, they would take advantage of my friendliness and not pay attention and just misbehave. But I realized that all I had to do was bring out the thunder, as in raise my voice and yell at them. And then it almost seemed like they were happy to obey. Like, yes, we'll be good students now. Yes, give us direction. It seemed like, yeah, like that character Loki from Avengers, the bad guy. They were just waiting to be enslaved. They just, you know, as soon as I just said, we're not, you know, we're going to do it this way and shut up, then they were fine. So those are kids. There have been a couple like grumpy old students that I've taught in the past who like refused to, or question, like verbally question what I was teaching. One I remember very, very clearly. I had a big class, 14 students, and I had an old guy, I don't remember his name, but he was angry because I was teaching the word prosthetic. It was in an article that we happened to be teaching about this parachutist, this really cool military parachutist who had lost both legs in the war, in something, I don't know what. And he came back to the States, and his girlfriend broke up with him, his fiance broke up with him, and he just felt so terrible, but he was able to actually re-enlist even though he had lost 2 legs, and he was using those blade things, you know, he became a Blade Runner kind of guy. And of course these were prosthetics, so it was part of the article we were reading. And this old guy was like, I think he was a doctor too. He's a retired doctor. He said they're really arrogant doctors here. They're not all of them, but some of them. He's like, this word is a specifically medical, has only specific medical use, and you should not be wasting our time with this word. I'm like, well, you already know the word. I'm not wasting your time. And I disagree, you know. And it comes up. And if you want to be a high-level student, there's no real. There are very few words that I would ever actually say. You don't need to know this word. So, so with certain students, you have to kind of. You're not going to win the argument with an old person, a stubborn old guy. So you just say, yes, I'm sorry, you're right. I'll be more careful in the future. But you don't really mean it. It's lip service. But seriously, it's not worth it. I mean, it's not worth having that kind of a disagreement with someone who's coming mostly to have fun, especially an old, very fluent old man. There's not really any point arguing with him. You just let him feel good and agree. It's not worth it. I mean, I can know in my heart, you know, yeah, it's not worth it. You have to make a choice. Do you want him complaining to this was not in my school, of course, so I wouldn't have him complain to the staff. Anyway, other difficulties. There's always been the case. This is going to sound arrogant, but I don't mean it that way. And I'm sure a lot of guys and girls who teach English have had the stalker. You know, there have been stalkers. There was some girl that found out where I lived and would come and leave beer at my door and socks at my door and T-shirts at my door. And she was creepy, like this tiny little mousy girl. And then some girls would give you presents, and I had to take one aside and say, look, it's not appropriate. You really should not give this to me. It makes me feel uncomfortable. And the other one, I don't remember what I did. I think I was able to get her out of the school somehow. I don't remember how. I don't remember. I think I got lucky and she became a teacher at a different school. But she kept coming back. I don't remember, but whatever. So with girls, like one thing you have to be careful about in Japan is when you're teaching female students, is if you are complimenting them just regularly, they may take the compliment as a come on. So you have to be careful about that. There's nothing you can do about that, but you have to be careful that when you say something when you compliment someone, be sure you're just complimenting the work, not the woman. And otherwise be cold, you know, and talk about your girlfriend a lot so nobody gets the wrong idea. Number 30, Japanese students. What are your thoughts on Japanese students in general? In general, after years of teaching, some of them can learn, some of them can't. What can I say? The ones that can't really cannot, and they bring the whole average down. But some of them are very good. I do think that language ability is not connected to intelligence directly, as in it is a kind of intelligence, but it is not. It's it's no real indicator of someone's ability to form original thoughts. So you will meet a lot of people who are very intelligent and are really bad at English. They struggle with it, but they actually have, once they get the idea out, you're like, wow, that's a good point, you know. Or if your Japanese gets good enough, you realize these people are really smart, but they're just not. They're kind of like I have a student right now who's a butcher of English. She destroys it every week, but she's really smart. A middle-aged woman. Number 31, what have you learned about Japanese students that you didn't know before you arrived? Everything. I didn't know anything before I arrived, so I learned everything. I imagine everyone would be in kimonos and really conservative. They're not that conservative. A lot of them are lazier. Yeah. 32, how are you able to relate to your students? Or how are your students able to relate to you? I don't understand what that means exactly. Well, you exchange thoughts. You exchange thoughts in the classroom, and hopefully, yeah, you have some common ground, I guess. They're human beings. It's not like they're goddamn aliens, Japanese people are just human beings, so it's not that hard. If you have trouble relating with other human beings, then you'll have trouble in Japan as well. But, if you're fairly normal, whatever the hell that means, then you'll be okay. 33, in what ways do you or your students overcome stereotypes of each other? Well, you have to realize that there are stereotypes out there, and you have to realize that people are not statistics and averages, and that everyone is different. I don't think I do my, I will say that I think I'm a little bit more culturally sensitive than many of my students. I even now I think I have students who think that that Americans are all gun lovers and we love war, and a lot of them think that Americans have this certain way of being, but at the same time a lot of us do, and a lot of us do fulfill those stereotypes. So there's enough of us here to keep that stereotype alive. And there are enough Japanese out there that keep the stereotypes of them alive. But, of course, there are lots of Japanese who are very different. So, I just, I try to I try to get to know people as individuals. But I will tell you that I don't think a lot of students see me sometimes as an individual. Do you really see me, man? No, I really think they don't really see me sometimes. And I do think that I care about them more than they care about me. I mean, I really like my students, and I I care about them, but I feel, but it's a monetary exchange, so eventually they're gonna get tired of it, or for whatever reason, monetary, they get married, whatever, they move, they quit, and I know that we take it sometimes a little bit to heart, but after 22 years, you realize it's just part of the exchange. It's not that big a deal. But anyway, professional organizations. 34. Are you familiar with any professional organizations of English teachers in Japan? Can you tell me about them? Yeah, there's like JALT, the Japanese Association of Language Teachers, which they hold yearly conferences, and you go and you listen to other people, members there, give you lectures about how to be a better teacher, or how to use certain product, how to you teach in certain ways. I've been to quite a few of those, like 3 or 4 years in a row. And way back in the day, and you meet people who show you how they teach, for example, news, or how they teach cartoons, or manga, or how they teach using different mediums. So JALT is one. That's the only one I really can mention off the top of my head. And the only one I have had any real the only one I've actually dealt with. 35. What are your feelings about joining one of these professional organizations? Do you find any value in membership? Yeah, I think they're helpful, especially if you don't know what you're doing in the beginning. But after a while, see, I really like teaching, so I'm always thinking of ways to teach something, So I don't really need them anymore. But at the same time, I think it's good to it probably would be good to go back and visit once in a while, because they have, like, even if you're not a member, they have like occasional, like, local chapters and meetings and get-togethers where they go and discuss techniques and stuff. If you are a member, number 36, if you're a member, why did you decide to join? I don't know if I was actually ever a member. I just went to the conferences. They cost a bit of money to go, but I'm sure it's a great way to develop connections. So I would join for that reason as well. How about international, number 37? How about international organizations like TESOL or IATEFL? I don't have anything to do with those things, so I don't know. 38, are there certain English language programs in Japan that you would like to work in, or why not? I don't know what an English language program is. At a school? I'll just end the 39. Are there certain English language programs in Japan that you would never want to work in? Why or why not? Oh my god, there's still like 10 of these. No, let's skip over that because I don't know what he's talking about. So sorry. 40. What are your thoughts and feelings about the status of English and English language education in Japan? It really depends on the teacher in the end when you're talking about what I do, which is eikaiwa. But when it comes to the junior high school and the high school, they need to be revamped, you know. And they try, but there's so much red tape here that it's hard to get anything done. So 41, this new section is language, Japanese language, culture, and people. 41, how has your understanding of Japanese culture changed since you arrived here? Well, it's grown. I realize how complicated it is, and the longer you hear, the more you know, the more you realize, the less you know. That same old thing, you know. 42, what aspects of the culture surprise you the most? Are you most curious about? What are you most curious about aspects? Off the bat, maybe the fact that feminism here it's really weak, and even women kind of support the male-dominated culture. A lot of women here are just like, I want to get married and have kids, but I'm sure there are women like that in the States too. So other aspects that I knew existed but kind of still surprised me are somehow some salarymen just give their lives over to the company, even though the company doesn't give a goddamn shit about you, you know. Have you noticed any influence of the culture on Japanese language? This is number 43. Have you noticed any influence of the culture on English language education in Japan? Have you noticed any influence? Okay, so of Japanese culture on English language education? Of course, people are shy. I guess that's about it. Or people of natural, and I don't think this is really, well, no, it's part of the culture. People are always trying to translate things that just don't exist in English. There are certain expressions that do not exist in English, and Japanese are always trying to translate those expressions into English. Itadakimasu, okaeri nasai, those, you know, especially, well, newbies especially, right? But a lot of them kind of know that they don't exist, but they try anyway in the beginning. 44, how would you evaluate your social life with Japanese people? Have you found it easier or more difficult to form relationships with Japanese? How so? Yeah, it's more difficult, I'd say. There's a superficial friendship level. I think other people have more friendships than probably I have. I do have some friendships that I think are very deep and very strong and powerful, but I think it's not it's on a deeper level, but with less of the talking that Westerners do. You know, like Westerners are always like, "Oh, dude, you're my best friend," kind of stuff. Like, I think I have really good friends here, but we don't really spend a lot of time talking about the relationship. I think they know that I'm there for them, and if I need their help, they're there for me. And of course, when you're married, all that kind of changes. I mean, as in the end, I think when you're married, and I'm sure some people will disagree, but well, I wouldn't know. I've never been married to a Western woman, but I think in the end, woman's a woman, a man's a man, and you're going to have the same interactions and problems and joys that other married couples have, or you know, male female couples, or you know, couples, whatever. All right. I would say that if you're the kind of person who needs that kind of like really active interaction with your friends and talking all the time and supporting each other, then Japan might feel tougher for you. 45. What cultural barriers, if any, do you believe make it difficult to form friendships with some Japanese? The only cultural barrier, I think, is I think most Japanese are under the realization that we are here usually for a temporary time. So there might be that feeling of, why put too much energy into this a relationship with someone who's eventually going to leave. And I think a lot of us foreigners feel that way about other foreigners, a lot of long timers like me. Other cultural barriers, well, just the language, But a lot of, I feel really close with a lot of, even just my neighbors. I really care about them, and even though we do have, even now, language barrier, because I'll be speaking with a woman who's like 65 years old, and I can't understand everything she says. I get most of it, but that is kind of a barrier, the language barrier. And of course we they know there's certain there's a certain cultural education that everyone shares here that I don't. Just like Americans grow up knowing who Superman or Martin Luther King was. There are people in Japan, in Japanese. Like the other day, I had students explain to me, what exactly are. Who is Godzilla? Is he a good guy or bad guy? What about Ultraman? And Kamen Rider, right? And they were all like really getting into it and like talking about who's good and who's bad and how big everyone is and where they came from, things like that. Okay, reflection, the last part of it. 46. If you could draw a line representing your emotional state from when you arrived to now, how would you draw it? Trending upwards, downwards, like a roller coaster with many peaks and valleys? Emotional state, I don't know. In the beginning, I was single, so I'd say maybe it was more of a roller coaster in the beginning, but now it's pretty much planed out. And this is something that I think I can't speak for anybody else. I have no idea, but I'm pretty satisfied with that. I think I had enough roller coasters in my life. So 47. If trending upwards, what factors do you? So this is if trending downwards. I don't have to answer 47, 48 because they're one direction. 49. If wavering, what do you believe contribute to certain peaks? Okay, well I guess. Well, let's talk about the trending upward parts. Trending upwards parts, I guess, might be my career successes. When I've been able to get, so when things were going up, they were always, when I felt great, things were going up. I think a lot of that is because I succeeded in doing something, maybe not just like getting a great job or becoming a head teacher or something, or opening up a school. But it could be like running a marathon or just doing something, or getting my motorcycle license in Japanese. So that felt good too. Drawing downwards, losing a student who, for some bizarre reason, having to fire a teacher, the regular stuff, you got to do stuff you don't want to do. Once, there was a client who never paid 80,000 yen, like 800 bucks. That kind of pissed me off, but it's years ago. So. If wavering, what do you believe contributed to certain peaks? The wavering parts and the valleys, ups and downs, I would say had to do mostly with my love life. Broken up. Oh, together, great. Oh, broken up. Kind of stuff. Number 51, the last question. At this point, how well adjusted do you believe you are to living and working in Japan? I guess I'm pretty much well adjusted. Now that I have a wife, she takes care of a lot of mendokusai or pain in the ass things for me. But I don't need her to do that. But I'm thankful that she does, because it is such a pain in the ass, But at the same time, because she works too, and we have different work schedules, sometimes I'll have to go take care of the pain in the ass stuff. So I would say I'm very, very well adjusted and prepared to living and working in Japan. And those are my answers. Wow, this is a long one. This is like going to be like what, 35, 45, 50, almost an hour long. So wow. So congratulations on watching this whole thing. I'm sorry for not putting the questions on the screen. Yeah, the questions will just be in the description, okay? Or linked somewhere, because there's so many questions they might not even link fit in the description. Thanks for watching, everyone. I should give you something to talk about just to see if you got to the end, and just mention Maggie in some way, because she's been sitting here quietly, patiently this whole time. So mention her somehow in your comment, and then we'll know we got to the end. And if you have any more questions, go ahead and leave them in the comments. I hope this is useful for somebody besides just the future professor who asked me to do this list. And I'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks for watching, and remember, Maggie, and if you got something out of this, give it a thumbs up. You know, do me a favor. All right, good night.